Hey everybody, today we're going to be dipping our toes into the wonderful world of wurst. That's right, we're going to be making some sausages. Not just any sausage, one of my all-time favorites, Cajun Boudin. This Cajun classic is a spicy umami bomb of pork, rice, and the holy Cajun trinity of onions, celery, and bell peppers. And last but not least, liver. Wait, I know some of you don't like liver and are already eyeballing that viral cats being jerks video in the sidebar. Hear me out. Even if you hate liver, I promise this sausage will make you a believer. It's not going to taste like you licked a penny found on the sidewalk. I hope that was convincing enough for you to stick around because I really need that retention rate for my videos. Okay, step one is to season up some pork shoulder, aka pork butt, aka Boston butt. I'm seasoning up 2 8 to 9 pound pork butts. This is a big recipe that you can cut in half if you want, but I like to make big batches and freeze the boudin for later. These two are boneless, but bone-in is fine. The spices on the pork are going to be personal preference. I know some people use their favorite Cajun seasoning religiously and would never consider cheating with some other brand. Pick the one you like. Some of the easier brands to find would be Tony Chachere's, Slap Your Mama, and Cajun Two-Step from the ever-entertaining Mr. Stale Cracker. Whichever one you choose, just make sure you apply liberally. The whole butt needs rubbing. Okay, after we've coated the pork in Cajun seasoning, we're going to go back over and sprinkle on a healthy dose of number 16 mesh black pepper. Number 16 mesh black pepper is popular in the barbecue world because it builds a nice bark. The 16 is simply the size of the mesh that the grind will fall through in the manufacturing process. If you can't find number 16 black pepper, just break out the pepper grinder and set it to coarse. At this point, most recipes would call for the pork to be seared off in a stock pot. I'm choosing to go a different route and smoke my butts for a few hours to impart some smoky flavor into the sausage. I'll let the pork roll at 250 to 275 for about 3 hours. I'm not making pulled pork, so I'm not worried that it's not going to be tender. While the pork is smoking along, I'm going to break out my big stock pot. I believe this one is 32 quarts. If all you have is a standard 8-quart stock pot, you'll likely have to do this in batches. In this big pot, I'm going to saute my Cajun trinity of onions, peppers, and celery that I've chopped up. The mixture is going to be run through a grinder later, so you don't have to be too precise. I'll also throw in a handful of garlic cloves. You can never have too much garlic. Now comes the part a few of you out there were fearing most, the liver. Traditionally, pork liver is used in boudin. Depending on how heavy-handed the pork to liver ratio is will determine the metallic gaminess. I'm not a pork liver guy myself, so I'm opting to use chicken livers instead. It won't be front and center in the flavor profile, but it will give the sausage a little something extra you can't quite put your finger on. Even if you hate liver, I highly recommend you don't skip the chicken livers. After a few hours in the smoke, I'm going to cut my pork into several large chunks and add it to the pot. Again, this is all going in the grinder, so precision isn't a concern. Add in water until the mixture is just barely submerged. At this point, we need to break the Cajun seasoning back out. It's going to be difficult for me to say how much to use, but it's going to be a pretty good amount. I recommend adding in a cup and then taste the broth. Keep adding until you get to the point you think it might be too salty, and then go ahead and add a bit more. Bring everything to a rolling boil, and then back the heat down, cover, and simmer for an hour. We're going to soften up the pork, but once again, it's going into the grinder, so we don't need it to get to the point where it shreds. I couldn't find a lid for my 32-quart stock pot, so I improvised with the lid off my 110-quart crawfish pot. Speaking of crawfish boil, boudin is a great companion if you're planning a big party. For my amazing crawfish boil recipe, check out ilovemeat.com. After an hour, strain out all the ingredients. The smell should be amazing at this point. Nobody's going to judge you if you sneak a little nibble of pork, but whatever you do, do not throw away the cooking liquid. We will use a portion of this later. Time to grind. Using a medium-sized die, run your braised mixture through a plate. Not very appetizing. At this point, some of you Traeger owners will notice the resemblance to pellets. There are a couple options if you don't have a dedicated meat grinder. If you have a KitchenAid, they do make a grinder attachment. It's not the best, but it is better than doing it by hand. Big kitchen knives, cleavers, etc. will get the job done. It's just going to take you a little bit longer than if you had a dedicated grinder. Once the meat and veggies have been ground up, it's time to mix in our pre-cooked rice. I cooked this rice the day before and had it in the fridge overnight. We're looking for roughly a 2-to-1 ratio of meat to cooked rice. Adjust accordingly with the amount that you have on hand. When I'm happy with the rice ratio, I'll start adding in some of our fat and juice from the cooking process. I didn't stuff the sausage the same day as I cooked, so the fat and juices have congealed. Don't worry, I know this doesn't look appetizing, but I promise you the taste is phenomenal. Keep mixing until everything starts getting tacky. When you can take a big ball of the mixture and turn your hand upside down and it stays stuck, you're ready to stuff. I'm using a big 30-pound stuffer from Cabela's, but you can use whatever you have available. I would make one suggestion, and that's to skip the grinder and stuffer attachment for the KitchenAid stand mixer. Most people I know do not have great results with that setup. It grinds just fine, but it does not do a good job of stuffing. When placing the mixture into the stuffer, I really like to throw handfuls into the bottom with some force. This pushes the air out and keeps the bubbles from forming in the links. For this sausage, I'm using a 38mm natural hog casing. Butcher and Packer, as well as sausagemaker.com, are great sausage making resources that carry casings. You can also find some on Amazon. Link in the description below. Usually a 24-hour soak in fresh clean water is ideal. Most casings are packed in salt or a very intense brine. You'll want to wash that out and soften the casings so they're more pliable. Here I'm using a little bit of water to lube up the stuffing tube. This will help the casing slide off easily. I don't tie off my casing at the start. I like to leave it open so any air can escape. I don't like making a balloon out of that first link. Apply some water to your work surface so the sausage can slide around as it comes off the stuffer. Slowly turn the crank and apply slight pressure so the casing expands evenly. After you stuff the sausage, it's a good idea to use a sausage pricker to poke out all the air bubbles that may have gotten trapped inside. This will prevent your sausage from bursting. The technique I use for linking the sausage is to pinch off the desired length and then spin the sausage away from my body. Spin 4 or 5 times or until the link is taut. Move down 2 links, pinch, and then spin the links towards my body. Repeat this alternating process until you have completed the whole rope. The alternating pattern keeps the sausage from unraveling. I like to let my sausage set up in the fridge overnight before I cut them into individual links. This dries out the casing a bit, and I find this helps the end of the sausage stay sealed. You can use a knife to separate the links, but for me, a pair of scissors works best. When it comes time to reheat your sausage, I find using an air fryer in the kitchen works the best. It gives a nice snappy bite to the sausage. A lot of people use a microwave, steaming, boiling. If you have any sausage mixture left over, don't throw it away. Be sure and save that. You can use it to make boudin balls later, and it's just great loose over some cooked rice. If you would, hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps out a channel like mine. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below. I'll try to respond the best I can. Thank you.